Amelia walked with the kind of confidence born from survival, her movements deliberate. By day she worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. By night, she escaped into places where no one knew her name. Tonight was no different until she saw him. Isaiah Blackwell stood in the corner like he owned the world, because he did. A billionaire cloaked in power and ruthlessness, his reputation was as cold as the steel of his skyscrapers. Yet when his eyes locked with hers across the room, something shifted. Time slowed. The crowd disappeared. It was as if the world had conspired to put them on the same collision course. He crossed the floor like a predator drawn to its prey, but when he reached her, it was he who felt hunted. "You don't belong here," he said, his voice low and commanding. Amelia smirked. "Neither do you." Words turned to glances, glances to touches, and by the time the night reached its peak, they were wrapped in each other's storm, 2 strangers drowning in heat and escape. No names, no promises, just the raw, unfiltered need to feel alive. As dawn bled into the sky, Amelia slipped from the hotel suite, her heels clicking against the marble, her heart pounding with something she couldn't name. She didn't leave a note. She didn't look back. To her, it was a night that would vanish like smoke. But the universe had other plans. Weeks later, standing in the small bathroom of her rundown apartment, Amelia stared at the pregnancy test in her shaking hands. Positive. Her breath caught, her reflection blurring through tears. She had nothing, no money, no safety net, but inside her was a piece of the man she swore she'd never see again. Meanwhile, Isaiah Blackwell sat high above the city in his glass tower, oblivious to the life quietly growing beyond his reach. Haunted by the memory of the only woman who ever walked away from him, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Fate would not let them remain strangers. When their worlds collide again, secrets will unravel, power will clash with vulnerability, and a forbidden love will ignite in the face of lies, danger, and the legacy of an heir neither of them expected. The city never slept, but for Amelia, the nights felt longer than the days. She worked double shifts, hiding the growing secret under loose clothes, avoiding questions from anyone who cared enough to ask. Every kick, every flutter in her belly was a reminder that her life had changed forever and that somewhere out there was the father, a man who lived in a world so far from hers it might as well have been another planet. She told herself she didn't need him, that she could do this alone. But deep down, a part of her wondered what would happen if he knew. Isaiah Blackwell couldn't shake the memory of her, the woman who didn't ask for his name, his money, or his power. In a life where everyone wanted something, she had wanted nothing, and that haunted him. He found himself scanning the faces of strangers, hoping to see hers again, a ghost in the crowd. His cold, calculated world began to crack, though he'd never admit it. Months later, fate intervened. Amelia was rushing through the rain, late for work, when she slipped outside a luxury hotel. Strong hands caught her before she hit the ground. She looked up and froze. Isaiah. His eyes widened, and for the first time in years, the unshakable billionaire was caught off guard. "You," he breathed. She wanted to run, but his grip was firm, not in force, but in recognition. "You left," he said, his voice low, almost wounded. "You weren't supposed to remember," she replied, her heart pounding. "Tell me why I can't stop thinking about you," he demanded, his gaze searching hers. She couldn't tell him. Not yet. The secret between them was too big, too fragile. Instead, she pulled away, mumbling an excuse, disappearing into the rain. But Isaiah Blackwell didn't let things go not in business, and certainly not with the woman who had undone him with one night. He found her again. He always would. When he discovered the truth, when he saw the child she carried, everything he thought he knew about control would shatter. Love wasn't part of his plan, but neither was she, and neither was the heir that would bind them forever. As their lives intertwined, so did their hearts, though pride and fear stood in the way. Amelia fought to protect her child and her independence, while Isaiah fought against the only thing that terrified him, vulnerability. The world they came from would tear them apart if it could. Business rivals, family secrets, a past both of them wished to forget. But the bond they shared, born from one night and tested by fire, was something even power couldn't destroy. Amelia's world began to unravel the moment the test turned positive. She told no one, not even her closest friend. The father was a man of power and shadows, and she couldn't risk exposing herself to a world that would chew her up and spit her out. She would raise this child on her own, no matter how hard it became. But as her belly grew, so did the whispers from co-workers, from her estranged family who resurfaced only to pressure her into giving up the baby. Their words cut deep. "You can't do this alone. You're throwing your life away." Amelia hardened her resolve, even as the weight of everything threatened to crush her. Meanwhile, high above the city, Isaiah Blackwell moved through boardrooms like a predator, his focus locked on a hostile takeover that would make his empire untouchable. To him, feelings were liabilities, and love was a weakness he didn't allow himself. But the ghost of the woman who had walked away haunted him at every turn. When his private investigator returned with a file Amelia's name, her address, and photos that revealed the truth, Isaiah's world tilted. She was pregnant. With his child. His heart lurched, but pride and fear slammed the door shut. He convinced himself it wasn't his, that she must be lying or mistaken. Instead of reaching out, he buried himself deeper into the ruthless acquisition of a company teetering on the edge of collapse. What he didn't know was that the business he was about to destroy was the only thing left tying Amelia to her late father's memory. As the takeover loomed, Amelia's life spiraled into chaos. She worked until her body ached, hiding her pregnancy under layers of clothing, ignoring the whispers and the pitying looks. Nights were spent clutching her stomach, whispering to the life inside her that she would protect it no matter what. But the pressure mounted, threatening eviction, crushing bills, and a family who saw the baby as nothing more than a mistake. Alone in the storm, she felt herself breaking, yet she refused to give up. When the news broke that Isaiah Blackwell was the man behind the deal that would erase her family's legacy, her heart shattered. The man who had given her one night of passion, who unknowingly gave her a future growing inside her, was also the man who was taking everything else away. Determined to fight, Amelia stormed into his glass fortress, confronting him with a fierceness that shocked even him. "How dare you?" she spat, trembling with rage. He met her glare, his voice cold. "This is business, Amelia. Don't make it something it's not." Her voice cracked, but her words cut through him. "It's not just business when you're destroying the life of the woman carrying your child." The silence that followed was deafening. Isaiah's mask slipped for a fraction of a second, but pride forced it back. "You expect me to believe that?" "I don't care what you believe," she hissed. "This baby isn't a bargaining chip. And I don't need you." She turned to leave, but his hand shot out, stopping her. The look in his eyes was no longer cold, it was conflicted, shaken. For the first time, the man who controlled everything was losing control. The following weeks became a battlefield neither of them could escape. Amelia's strength was tested daily, balancing exhausting work shifts while fending off calls from her estranged family who saw her as a burden, urging her to fix her mistake by giving up the baby. She stopped answering. She stopped caring what they thought. Each kick in her belly reminded her she wasn't fighting for herself anymore, she was fighting for her child. Isaiah buried himself in the takeover, but no amount of signed contracts or boardroom victories could silence the gnawing in his chest. The image of Amelia's tear-streaked face haunted him in every reflection. He told himself she was a mistake, yet every fiber of him screamed that she wasn't. Still, pride chained him to his empire. Vulnerability was the one thing he swore he would never allow. Then fate intervened. Amelia collapsed at work from exhaustion and was rushed to the hospital. The news of her condition reached Isaiah through the same investigator he'd ordered to watch her. Against his own rules, he dropped everything and stormed through the hospital doors, his heart pounding harder than it ever had in a hostile takeover. He found her pale and trembling, clutching her stomach protectively. When she saw him, her expression hardened. "You have no right to be here," she said, her voice weak but fierce. "Don't tell me where I do and don't belong," he shot back, but there was no anger in his tone, only fear. "You made it clear what I mean to you," she whispered. He stepped closer, his voice breaking for the first time. "You mean more to me than I'm ready to admit." When Amelia was discharged, Isaiah followed her home, relentless in his determination to make things right. But making amends would take more than words. It would take sacrifice. He halted the takeover, risking his empire to protect her family's business, a move that shocked the industry and left his enemies circling. For the first time, Isaiah Blackwell was vulnerable, and it was because of her. Amelia saw the headlines, saw the man who once destroyed everything she loved now risking it all for her. When he showed up at her door, drenched from the rain, she let him in. "I don't know how to do this," he confessed. "I've spent my whole life controlling everything. But you make me want to lose control. You make me want to fight for something real." She stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm scared, Isaiah." "So am I," he said softly, placing a hand on her belly. "But for this. For us. I'll face anything." Months later, under a golden sunset, Amelia cradled their newborn as Isaiah wrapped his arms around both of them, the once untouchable billionaire now grounded by the two people who had changed him forever. They stood at the edge of the world, no contracts, no power games, just love. Amelia looked out at the horizon, her voice soft, full of everything she'd fought for. "The world doesn't just take, Isaiah. Sometimes, it gives back everything you thought you'd lost." Isaiah Blackwell had spent his life building walls so high no one dared to climb them, but Amelia was the crack in his fortress. He told himself he didn't care, yet he found himself watching from a distance, quietly ensuring she was safe, sending anonymous help when bills piled up, arranging subtle protections around her without her knowing. Each glimpse of her hand on her growing belly, her tired yet determined smile chipped away at the cold armor he had worn for decades. Amelia, unaware of his silent presence, faced her own battles. The pregnancy was no secret to those closest to her, but she trusted too easily. When a friend she leaned on betrayed her, selling the story to the media, her quiet life exploded overnight. Headlines screamed billionaire's secret lover pregnant. Paparazzi swarmed, strangers shouted judgments, and suddenly Amelia's sanctuary became a prison. Every step was watched, every word twisted. The stress threatened to break her, but she stood tall, shielding her child from the chaos with every ounce of strength she had left. Behind closed doors, Isaiah seethed. The ruthless businessman the world knew came back to life with a vengeance, hunting down the sources of the leak with icy precision. Yet, as he crushed his enemies, he found no satisfaction, only a growing fear that the woman who once slipped out of his bed without a word was slipping further away from him now, not because of distance, but because of the pain the world had inflicted. As the storm raged, fragments of Isaiah's past began to surface. Late nights alone in his penthouse, memories haunted him: his parents' bitter divorce, the betrayal of those he trusted most, the night he vowed never to be vulnerable again. The empire he built was born from survival, not happiness. He had spent years controlling everything, believing love was weakness. But then came Amelia, and she didn't want his money, his power, or his name. She wanted nothing but to stand on her own, and that made him want her more. Every time he saw her endure the media frenzy with her chin high, every time she ignored the whispers and protected the life growing inside her, Isaiah felt something foreign stir in his chest. Her resilience was something no fortune could buy, no power could command. She wasn't just surviving, she was fighting, and without realizing it, she was teaching him how to fight for something real. Finally, he couldn't stay in the shadows any longer. He came to her not as the billionaire who owned the city, but as a man stripped bare. He found her in the quiet of a hospital waiting room after a scare caused by the relentless stress. Her face was pale, her eyes tired, yet when she saw him, she didn't look afraid, only wary. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice trembling. "I should have been here from the start," he replied, his own voice breaking. "You've done enough damage, Isaiah. The world thinks I'm some gold digger carrying your heir." He stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. "I don't care what the world thinks. I care about you. I care about our child." Tears welled in her eyes, but she turned away, unable to let him in fully yet. Still, Isaiah stayed, refusing to leave this time. Night after night, he returned, not to control her but to be present. He held her hand during the doctor visits, shielded her from the press, and stood as a silent wall against anyone who dared to harm her. Slowly, the man who built his empire on ice began to melt. The night Amelia went into labor, but inside the hospital, time stopped. Isaiah was there, not as the billionaire everyone feared, but as a man terrified of losing the two people who had become his entire world. He held her hand through every contraction, whispered encouragement as she fought through the pain, and for the first time, the man who controlled empires realized there was something he could not control, and it humbled him. Hours later, their baby's first cry filled the room. Amelia, drenched in sweat and tears, cradled the tiny life against her chest. Isaiah stood frozen, his breath caught, his heart pounding in a way he'd never known. He touched the baby's hand, and when the tiny fingers wrapped around his, something inside him broke and healed all at once. "This is real," he whispered, his voice trembling. Amelia looked up at him, her eyes soft, exhausted but glowing. "It's always been real." News of the birth exploded across every media outlet, but the headlines no longer mattered. For the first time, Isaiah didn't care about his image, his empire, or the deals waiting on his desk. The only thing that mattered was the fragile family he now held in his arms. Still, the world wasn't done testing them. Business rivals saw his vulnerability as an opening, the press circled like vultures, and Amelia's estranged family tried to resurface, threatening to pull her back into the chaos she'd escaped. But Isaiah wasn't the cold man he used to be. This time, he didn't hide behind power, he wielded it to protect what truly mattered. With calculated precision, he dismantled every threat, securing his empire and shielding Amelia and their child from the storm. The same ruthless determination that once built his walls was now used to tear them down for her. Amelia watched the transformation in awe. The man she once thought incapable of love had become the one who loved the fiercest. He was still Isaiah Blackwell, the billionaire, the powerhouse, but with her, he was something greater. A father, a partner, a man who had learned that true strength comes not from control, but from letting love in. Weeks later, they stood on the balcony of his penthouse as the sun melted into the horizon. Amelia held their baby close, while Isaiah stood behind her, his arms wrapped protectively around them both. The city lights sparkled below, but for once, the world felt quiet. "You've changed," she said softly. "No," he replied, kissing her temple. "You changed me." Amelia leaned back against him, her heart full. "Do you regret it?" "Only that I didn't fight for this sooner," he said, his voice raw with truth. The world held its breath as he spoke into the microphones. "You and our child are my everything. Marry me, Amelia." Gasps rippled through the crowd, but Amelia's heart didn't race with the fairytale rush people imagined. Instead, it ached with doubt. She saw the ring, the cameras, the carefully staged perfection, and the man behind it. She loved him, but love wasn't enough if he hadn't changed. She stepped back, her voice steady but trembling at the edges. "You want to prove your love? Then stop trying to buy it. Show me you can be the man we need without hiding behind power." The crowd fell into stunned silence as she walked away, leaving the most powerful man in the city on his knees before the world. Her refusal hit Isaiah harder than any business loss he'd ever suffered. But instead of retreating into coldness, he took it as the challenge he needed. The timing couldn't have been worse. A rival billionaire emerged from the shadows, launching a brutal attack on Isaiah's empire and Amelia's family business, threatening to destroy everything they both cared about. The enemy knew where to strike, exploiting Isaiah's reputation and Amelia's vulnerabilities in a media frenzy that painted them as pawns in a corporate war. For the first time, Isaiah and Amelia were forced to fight not against each other, but side by side. He worked tirelessly to dismantle the rival schemes, not with brute force or money, but with calculated moves that protected Amelia's legacy as fiercely as his own. She, in turn, stood with him through the chaos, offering ideas, support, and something Isaiah had never let anyone give him: trust. Their late nights strategizing turned into moments of quiet connection. In between the chaos of press conferences and boardroom battles, they shared laughter, memories, and truths they had kept locked away for too long. Amelia saw the man beneath the armor, and Isaiah discovered a strength in her that humbled him. Their love wasn't built on passion alone anymore, it was forged in fire, tested by storms, and made real by sacrifice. The rival was defeated, the businesses saved, and the media's frenzy turned to awe at the unlikely power couple who had faced the world and won. But the real victory was far more intimate. When Amelia went into labor, Isaiah was there for every heartbeat, every scream, every tear. No cameras, no press, just him, holding her hand as she brought their child into the world. When the baby's cry filled the room, Isaiah's walls finally crumbled for good. He held his child close, tears streaming freely, his cold demeanor replaced with warmth he never thought he'd feel. As the sun rose outside the hospital window, Isaiah turned to Amelia. No ring, no grand gesture, just a man stripped of everything but truth. I don't need an empire. I need you. I need us. Let me start over. No cameras, no power plays, just me, you, and our child. Amelia's eyes softened, and for the first time, she saw no trace of the ruthless billionaire, only the man she had fallen in love with. She took his hand, her voice trembling with emotion. This is what I was waiting for. Months passed, and the city whispered with curiosity about the billionaire who had vanished from the spotlight. Isaiah stepped away from the empire for the first time in his life, choosing to be present in a world far from the ruthless grind of boardrooms. He spent mornings rocking his newborn to sleep, afternoons walking with Amelia through quiet parks, and nights learning how to live without hiding behind power. The media speculated endlessly, was Isaiah Blackwell finished? Had love tamed the coldest man alive? He didn't care. For the first time, their opinions meant nothing. Amelia saw the change in him daily, not in grand gestures, but in the way he showed up without cameras, without ego, simply as a father and partner. But peace never lasts long when you've built an empire on enemies. The rival billionaire Isaiah had resurfaced with one final strike, threatening to expose old secrets that could destroy everything Isaiah had rebuilt. Amelia urged him to ignore the threats, but Isaiah knew this was the last ghost of his past he had to face. Instead of hiding, he went public, standing before the media not as the untouchable businessman they once feared, but as a man owning his past. He admitted the ruthless tactics, the mistakes, the pain that had shaped him. And then he said the words that silenced the world. I built walls because I was afraid. But love tore them down. I will never apologize for becoming the man my family deserves. The confession flipped the narrative. What was meant to break him only made him stronger. The rival vanished into obscurity, and Isaiah emerged not just with his empire intact, but with a new identity the world had never seen, a man who valued love over power. Later, on a quiet evening bathed in golden light, Isaiah brought Amelia to the same balcony where she had once turned him down. This time, there were no cameras, no press, just the sound of the city breathing below them. He took her hand, his voice steady but full of emotion. Amelia, you once asked me to prove I could love you beyond power. This us, our family, the man I've become is my proof. I don't just want to marry you because I love you. I want to marry you because you are my home, my heart, and my redemption. Will you give me forever? Tears streamed down her face, and this time, there was no hesitation. She whispered, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, but it wasn't the ring that mattered, it was the promise behind it, a promise born from fire and healing. Their baby cooed in the background, as if sealing their fate with the purest sound in the world.